The process of becoming awake is becoming aware of that identification that is happening all the time. That most of your life you live in that material world where you identify with ego creations, where your ego and your selfing is telling you that things are in a certain way and you believe that to be true. But when we start to work with awakening and we start to work with Buddhism that way, we allow ourselves to step out of that delusion and instead looking at what is actually arising in this moment. And to that we use what we call direct experience, which is noticing what is arising in your senses right now, not what you think is arising, what is happening in your senses right now, but what is actually happening. And your senses have the seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, and touching. But it also has a mind version of that, which is when you close your eyes, for example, you can still see things. But with your eyes closed, those things you see are happening in your mind. And if you're sitting in a completely silent room, you still have your mind chatter happening. The mind is still talking with itself. The thinker is constantly commenting on what is happening. And that is the mind that is talking. So that hearing is what you have from the mind. So all your senses have a mental component or a mental twin to it. And becoming awake is where you start to notice how much is actually happening right now and how much am I thinking is happening. So if you're in a conversation with someone and you hear what they're saying, are you actually listening to the words? Or are you constantly referring back to yourself on what you think they're saying and how what you think they're saying is going to influence you, what that means to you? Because if you are, then you have a starting point in that conversation where you're not actually present. You're not really here. You have a self in the middle and everything is evolving around that self. And whatever the other person says is only a reflection on how is that gonna influence me? What do I think about what they say? What is my opinion and judgment about what they say? And I better tell them about that. But that is selfing, that is ego. You're not here. You're not present in this moment right now with the other person where you really, truly are here. And to practice that, coming back to this moment over and over and over, we use direct experience as one tool where we keep noticing what is actually here. Not what I think is here, but what is actually arising right now. And if you do the awakening curriculum on this channel, then you have all the tools you need to become aware of that and to become awake. We have another channel called Unfettered Mindfulness, and there we have the other tool that we use, and that is inquiry. Because inquiry is when you start to pull a thread. There is something you assume to be in a certain way, but that is just an assumption. And we use inquiry to become aware of, first of all, how is this assumption just an assumption? What I think is really happening, let's say I'm really afraid of dying. That is a belief. You have an underlying belief about what that means, what that will actually entail if you die. And that feeling that you have about it, that can be inquired about. So we're not saying that you're not dying. We're saying that your experience about death is going to change if you inquire about it. Because what we tend to do is just whatever thought we have about something, we absolutely believe is real. But it's not though. It's just a thought. And that thought is based on previous causes and conditions in your life. You're just regurgitating the past. You're not actually here. Now, on Unfettered Mindfulness channel, we have so many inquiries. I'm going to link the one about death here if you want to do a death meditation that is really, really efficient in looking into what you assume death is and what it actually is. But not only about that, we have inquiries about basically everything, because everything can be inquired about and put a question mark about. You can be curious about everything. If there is no I here, and whatever is arising in this moment, anything can be true, and nothing is true. So whenever you're locked into the ego, whenever you're locked into believing that something is real or something is truth, be curious. Ask yourself, are you sure about that? You can use your direct experience to get back to this moment, or you can use inquiries to really look into what is actually arising, not what I think is arising, but what is actually arising, and then even question that. Thank you.